The air in our house had grown so cold, so heavy. Every conversation with Mark felt like navigating a minefield. We were strangers living under the same roof, the silence between us screaming louder than any argument ever could. Divorce papers were on the table, a stark white flag of surrender to the years of unspoken resentment and growing distance. We had agreed it was for the best. Our love story, once a vibrant, beautiful thing, had faded to a dull, painful memory. One Saturday, while packing my things, I decided to tackle the space under our bed. It was a no-man's land of dust, bunnies, and forgotten odds and ends. As I pulled out an old shoebox, my fingers brushed against something else. It was a small, leather-bound book, its cover worn smooth with age. I didn't recognize it. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it. The first page read, "Our adventure book." The handwriting was mine, from years ago. I sank down onto the floor, the dust motes dancing in the sliver of sunlight from the window. I started reading. The first entry was from our first date. I'd described how Mark's laugh made my stomach do flips, how the city lights seemed to sparkle just for us that night. I had completely forgotten I'd even written it. I kept turning the pages. There was the entry about our first "I love you," whispered clumsily in a movie theater, followed by a drawing of two stick figures holding hands. I found the story of our disastrous first attempt at baking a cake together, which ended with more flour on us than in the bowl, and us laughing until we cried on the kitchen floor. There was the time we got lost on a road trip and ended up discovering the most beautiful, secluded beach, a secret just for us. Each page was a snapshot, a tiny, perfect moment I had locked away and then forgotten the key. I had written down not just what happened, but how I felt, the giddiness, the security, the overwhelming certainty that this man was my person. I read about the day he proposed. I had described the nervous tremor in his hands as he opened the ring box, the way his eyes searched mine for an answer he already knew. I had written, "Today, I promised my forever to the man who holds my heart. I can't imagine a single day without him." The words were a punch to the gut. Where had that girl gone? Where had that unshakable love gone? The diary wasn't just about the big moments. It was filled with little things. Mark brought me soup in bed today because I had a cold. He even remembered I hate carrots. Another entry said he worked a double shift but still stopped to get my favorite ice cream on the way home. He looked so tired, but he just smiled and said seeing me happy was all the energy he needed. These were the tiny bricks that had built the foundation of our love, a foundation I was now helping to tear down. Tears streamed down my face, blurring the ink on the pages. This book wasn't a diary. It was a testament. It was a record of a love so deep and real. It felt like I was reading about two other people. How did we get from there to here? How did we let the daily grind, the small arguments, and the unspoken hurts build a wall so high we couldn't see over it anymore? Just then, Mark walked into the room. He saw me on the floor, the open book in my lap, my face a mess of tears. His expression softened from weary resignation to concern. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice gentle for the first time in months. I couldn't speak. I just held the book out to him. He took it, confused, and began to read. I watched his face as he turned the pages. I saw his eyebrows furrow, then his lips curve into a faint smile. I saw a flicker of the young man I fell in love with, the one who could find joy in a burnt cake and a wrong turn. He sat down on the floor across from me, the space between us suddenly feeling smaller. He looked up from the book, his eyes glistening. "I remember this," he whispered, pointing to a page. "This was the night we saw the meteor shower. You were so excited you couldn't stand still." He chuckled, a sound I hadn't heard in so long. "You wrote that you wished we could bottle the magic of that night." He kept reading, sometimes aloud. He read about his own small gestures of love, things he probably did without a second thought, things I had noticed and cherished enough to write down. "I didn't know," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I didn't know you saw all that. I thought I wasn't enough anymore. I thought I wasn't enough for you," I confessed, the words tumbling out. Somewhere along the way, we stopped telling each other these things. We stopped showing up. We started keeping score of the hurts instead of the joys. That little book, hidden under our bed, held up a mirror to our marriage. It didn't show us the broken, bitter people we had become. It showed us who we were, who we had been, and who we could be again. It reminded us that our story wasn't over. We had just forgotten how to read it. We spent the rest of the day on that dusty floor, not packing boxers, but turning the pages of our own history. We laughed. We cried. We talked, really talked. For the first time in years, we remembered the couple who faced the world as a team, who found adventure in the mundane, and whose love was a living, breathing thing. The divorce papers are gone now. In their place, on our bedside table, sits a worn leather book, and it's no longer a secret. We've started adding new pages. The entries are different now. They're not just about giddy firsts. They're about conscious choices. About choosing to see the good, choosing to forgive, choosing to remember why we started this adventure in the first place. That diary didn't just save our marriage. It gave us a second chance to write a better ending together. Thank you so much for listening to our story. If you've ever felt lost in your own relationship, maybe it's time to look for your own adventure book. Sometimes the love is still there, just waiting to be rediscovered. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the heart. See you next time.